A nightmare scenario, contracting a superbug resistant to every antibiotic known. Well, Wellington man Brian Poole died from complications of a stroke, but he was also carrying a superbug, which he likely caught while living in Vietnam. Now, there's a fresh warning over the overuse and misuse of antibiotics, which enable bugs to become resistant to the drugs. Now, Kurt Kraus, director of the Webster Center for Infectious Diseases, joins us from Dunedin to try and give us a bit of information here. Kurt, before we panic everyone into an end of the human race scenario, these sort of bugs, these pan-resistant bugs, are surely very rare still.
Well, they've been with us for quite a long time. These pan-resistant bugs have been around for decades. I guess what's happened that's different now is in the past 5 years they've spread, and they've begun to spread more rapidly than before.
So it's quite contagious, this type of bug?
Well, there's a difference between contagiousness and resistance. The bugs in general aren't necessarily more contagious or more dangerous than other bugs in terms of causing disease. They're just a lot harder to treat.
Or impossible to treat, as may have been the case with Mr. Poole. So I guess my question is that if somebody like Mr. Poole comes into a public hospital and the medical staff aren't aware of what the situation is, can these bugs spread to other patients who may be in there with weakened defense systems?
Sure, that kind of thing can happen.
So will we likely see more cases like this?
I think the bottom line message from what's occurred recently in Wellington is that these bacteria are with us now, and they're really here to stay. And so we have to work hard to manage the situation. And I think
Sorry, please continue, Kurt.
Well, I think any effort to manage the situation really requires sort of three things. First, we've got to work to prevent or lessen the spread if it occurs. Then we need to work to optimally use the antibiotics that we have currently available to us. And we need to work to promote the development of new antibiotics for the future. So all three things really need to happen, I think.
The first two we can certainly be proactive with. The third one's slightly harder. I mean, is science falling behind a wee bit here?
Well, the pharmaceutical companies, one by one, over the past 2 decades have stopped producing antibiotics. So it's not that people aren't interested, it's just it's become less of a priority. So I think we need to increase the amount of support going into research for antibiotic development, and we need to figure a way to incentivize biotechnology companies to develop more antibiotics. And I think that they will be successful in doing that, but it'll take time. It'll really take a decade or so in order to get new antibiotics into the stream. So that means we've got to manage our current situation now as best as we can.
Frustratingly, though, our doctors are probably very aware of the overprescription of antibiotics. The overuse of them allows these bugs to build up these resistances. But, of course, there will be other doctors around the world or other areas of the world where overprescription's the norm, maybe, and they will allow these resistances to build up, which will impact on us effectively. Is that a fair comment?
Oh, I think it is. Antibiotic resistance results from a number of different factors, but at least one element here is the so-called medical tourism. And I think people have to be very careful about not exposing themselves to medical procedures and locations where these resistant bugs are more common. Now that wasn't the case in this instance, right? Because this gentleman had I think he had a stroke and ended up having to have a medical procedure. But in situations where you have elective surgery, you just have to be really careful about going to somewhere where you might encounter a dangerous bacteria.
All right, Kurt Kraus, thank you very much for your time.